Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. It was a rainy evening when Emma stood outside the bustling restaurant, the dim glow of the streetlights reflecting off the slick pavement. She fidgeted nervously with the edge of her second-hand coat, feeling the weight of the night's plans settle heavily on her shoulders. She had promised her friend Jenny she would go through with this blind date, but nothing could prepare her for what lay ahead. Emma had never quite felt like she belonged in places like this. The high-end restaurant was full of people whose polished shoes and expensive suits only served to remind her of the divide between her and them. She glanced down at her worn shoes, the scuffs on her dress, and tried to steady her breath. "I promised," she murmured to herself, repeating the words as if they could erase the unease bubbling in her stomach. As she entered the restaurant, the noise of the evening surrounded her, the soft hum of conversation, the clinking of silverware, the laughter of patrons. She scanned the room nervously, her eyes flicking from one table to another. She had no idea where to sit. But then her gaze landed on a man sitting alone, his dark hair perfectly styled, his suit impeccable. He was engrossed in his phone, his posture confident, but something about the way he looked caught her attention. "Table 7, she mumbled to herself, stepping forward, her heart racing. This had to be him, the man she was supposed to meet. Taking a deep breath, she walked up to the table and smiled awkwardly. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said, trying to sound casual. She sat down across from him, immediately feeling self-conscious about her mismatched shoes and second-hand dress. She fiddled with the napkin, unsure of what to say next. The man looked up at her, his expression momentarily blank before he blinked and processed what had just happened. Hi. I'm not Kevin," he said slowly still, clearly trying to make sense of the situation. Emma's face flushed red, mortified. "Oh no," she whispered, feeling the heat of embarrassment rise in her cheeks. She quickly stood up, apologizing as she grabbed her coat. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. I thought." But before she could finish her sentence, the man stopped her. "It's okay," he said, standing up too. "Don't worry about it. I was just confused. It happens." He gave her a small smile, his voice calm and reassuring. Emma paused, looking at him, unsure of what to do next. She could feel the weight of the mistake pulling her back. This wasn't how she had imagined the evening going at all. But for some reason, she couldn't bring herself to just walk away. "I'm really sorry," she muttered again, biting her lip. "I'll just go? It's fine." But the man, still smiling softly, spoke up again. "Hey, it's really no big deal," he said, taking a step closer to her. "Why don't we just have a drink? I could use some company." Emma hesitated, looking at the empty chair across from him. She didn't want to make a bigger fool of herself, but something about his tone, something kind and sincere, made her pause. After a brief moment, she took a deep breath. "Okay, fine," she said, sitting back down, trying to shake off the embarrassment. "But just one drink. Then I'll go." They both settled into the conversation. To Emma's surprise, it wasn't awkward at all. The man's presence was calming, his smile warm. As they talked, the conversation flowed easily, and she found herself laughing at his dry humor, feeling the weight of her nervousness slowly start to slip away. "I'm Emma, by the way," she said after a while, taking a sip from her glass. "I'm a waitress. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills." The man looked at her with genuine interest. "I'm Liam," he replied. "I work in tech. Not as interesting as a waitress, I'm sure." "Tech?" Emma raised an eyebrow. "You mean like coding and stuff?" "Something like that," Liam said, his smile widening as he leaned back in his chair. "It's not as exciting as it sounds, trust me." As the evening wore on, Emma found herself relaxing, feeling like she could be herself. There was something so disarming about Liam's easygoing nature, and she was starting to forget about the awkward beginning. She didn't even notice the time passing until her phone buzzed in her pocket. "Hey, Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you." "Kevin." Her heart sank. She had been talking to the wrong man. She glanced up at Liam, her face flushing with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," she muttered. "I sat at the wrong table. I thought you were Kevin." Liam's expression softened. It's fine, he said again. Don't worry about it. But Emma couldn't stay. She stood up quickly, still apologizing, and rushed out of the restaurant, her mind racing with the events of the night. As she stepped out into the cool night air, Liam watched her go, his smile fading slightly. There was something about her, something genuine and refreshing, that made him want to see her again. But for now, he watched as she disappeared into the night, wondering if he would ever see her again. As Emma hurried out of the restaurant, her face flushed with embarrassment, her mind raced. She could still feel the weight of the mistake, the way her heart had pounded in her chest. She had never been good at blind dates, but this felt like a new level of disaster. She had actually sat at the wrong table. Of course, she had. Her mind wandered back to the brief moment she had shared with Liam. He was charming in a way that seemed almost effortless, and despite the awkward start, the conversation had flowed surprisingly well. She had almost forgotten where she was and why she was there. Almost. But the reality hit her as she stepped into the cold night air, the weight of the situation pressing on her chest. I'm so stupid, she muttered under her breath as she quickened her pace, walking briskly down the street. She had planned to give up on dating, but Ginny had insisted, and now here she was, feeling more out of place than ever. As she turned the corner, Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket. She stopped and pulled it out, the screen lighting up with a message from Ginny. Don't tell me you ran away already. Where are you? Emma groaned and typed back quickly. I messed up. I sat at the wrong table. This was a disaster. Just as she hit send, another message popped up. It was from Liam. Hey, don't worry about it. It happens. I really enjoyed talking to you. If you ever want to try again, let me know. Emma stared at the message, blinking in disbelief. She had expected him to be frustrated, or at the very least, confused. But instead, he had taken it in stride, as if it didn't matter. There was something about that text, something about Liam's calm, understanding tone, that made her heart flutter despite herself. She couldn't help but smile a little. Maybe it wasn't such a disaster after all. Later that evening, Emma found herself thinking about Liam's words. If you ever want to try again, let me know. Was it possible? Should she really reach out to him again? She hadn't expected to feel this way about someone she had just met, but something about him lingered in her mind. She shook her head, trying to push away the thoughts. It was silly, right? She couldn't possibly just text a stranger again after a mix-up like that. But then again, it wasn't every day that a man responded so kindly after what had happened. The next day, Emma tried to get back to her usual routine. Work was busy, the hours long, and the tips were barely enough to cover rent. But even as she focused on her shifts, her thoughts kept drifting back to Liam. She didn't know why she couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about him. And it wasn't just the fact that he had been kind enough to not make her feel worse after the awkward meeting. There was an ease to him, a certain charm that made it impossible for her to forget their brief conversation. That evening, as Emma finished her shift and was getting ready to head home, her phone buzzed again. She pulled it out, expecting to see another message from Jenny, but this time, it was Liam. Hey Emma, I know this might be a bit forward, but I was wondering if you'd like to meet up again? I know we didn't get the chance to talk much the other night, but I'd love to. No pressure, just a coffee or something. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the message, her fingers hovering over the screen. Was this really happening? He wanted to see her. Again? It felt like something out of a movie. She took a deep breath and typed back, her fingers trembling slightly. I'd like that. Coffee sounds perfect. The message went through, and before she could even process it, her phone buzzed with his reply. Great. How about tomorrow afternoon? Emma smiled to herself, feeling a rush of excitement and nervousness. It wasn't much, just coffee, just a chance to talk more. But for some reason, it felt like the beginning of something more. Something she hadn't expected. As the day of their second meeting arrived, Emma couldn't stop thinking about what to wear. She picked out a simple outfit, something comfortable, but not too casual. She wanted to look nice, but not overdone. When she arrived at the cafe, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness, but she quickly spotted Liam sitting by the window, a coffee in front of him. His smile was easy and warm as he looked up and saw her walking in. Emma, he said, standing up to greet her. I'm glad you came. Me too, she replied, feeling a little more at ease now that she was in front of him. Sorry about last time. No need to apologize, he said, waving his hand dismissively. Like I said, it happens. But I'm really glad we're doing this now. They sat down and began to talk. And this time, the conversation flowed even more naturally than before. There was something about Liam that made her feel at ease, as though she could talk to him about anything. They shared stories about their lives, their dreams, and everything in between. And as the afternoon passed, Emma realized that she was enjoying herself more than she had in a long time. By the time they finished their coffee, Emma found herself smiling, laughing, and feeling like she had made a real connection. She didn't know where it would go from here, but for the first time in a long time, she was open to seeing where it might lead. As they said their goodbyes, Liam leaned in slightly and said, "I'm really glad we did this." "Me too," Emma replied. "Let's do it again sometime." With a smile, Liam nodded, and as they parted ways, Emma couldn't help but feel like something had just shifted in her life. As the days passed, Emma found herself thinking about Liam. More than she expected. The coffee date had gone surprisingly well. The conversation had been easy, comfortable, and it felt like they had known each other for far longer than just a few hours. She hadn't been this at ease with someone in a long time, and for once, she wasn't overthinking everything. Maybe this could actually go somewhere. But as much as Emma liked Liam, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. She was a waitress, struggling to pay her bills, while Liam was a mystery. He was polite, kind, and so easy to talk to, but she couldn't ignore the feeling that there was something more to him, something she wasn't seeing. She wasn't sure what it was, but she felt like there was something he wasn't telling her. Still, she couldn't deny that she was curious. And more than that, she found herself wanting to spend more time with him. So, when he suggested they meet again, this time for a casual dinner, she agreed without hesitation. That evening, Emma walked into the restaurant where they had agreed to meet, the familiar sound of clinking silverware and quiet conversation greeting her as she stepped through the door. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on Liam sitting at a table near the window. He stood up when he saw her, his smile warm and genuine. "Hey Emma, glad you could make it," Liam said, his voice smooth and inviting. "Of course," Emma replied with a smile. "I wasn't going to miss it." They sat down, and the conversation quickly picked up where it had left off. Emma found herself feeling more and more comfortable as the evening went on. Liam had a way of making her laugh, of making her forget about the struggles she faced on a daily basis. And for a while, it felt like it was just the two of them, the rest of the world fading away. But as they continued talking, something shifted. Emma couldn't put her finger on it, but there was a moment, a brief silence, when she felt like Liam was studying her more intently than usual. She hesitated, wondering if she had said something wrong, but he quickly broke the silence with a soft chuckle. "You know, Emma, I've been thinking," he began, his tone lighter than before, "about the other night, when we met. It's funny, isn't it? How we both just ended up sitting at the wrong table." Emma smiled, a little embarrassed. "Yeah, definitely a mistake I won't be making again." But Liam shook his head, his eyes never leaving hers. "I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was meant to happen. Sometimes, the best things come from the most unexpected moments." Emma paused, unsure of how to respond. There was something about the way he looked at her, something about the way he spoke, that made her heart race a little faster. She wasn't sure what he meant, but she could sense that his words were more than just casual conversation. Before she could speak, Liam continued, "I know we don't know each other very well yet, but I feel like there's something here, something real. And I don't want to rush things, but I think it's worth exploring. Don't you?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what to say. She liked Liam, that much was clear, but she didn't know if she was ready to dive into something more serious. Her life wasn't exactly in the best place right now, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to let someone else in. But there was something in his gaze that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she could take that chance. She hesitated for a moment, taking a deep breath before answering. "I don't know, Liam. I'm not sure if I'm ready for something serious. My life is a bit of a mess right now." Liam smiled softly, understanding in his eyes. "I get it. You don't have to rush into anything. I just want to get to know you more, take things slow. I'm not asking for anything crazy, just time." There was something in his voice that made Emma relax a little. Maybe he wasn't expecting her to have everything figured out. Maybe, just maybe, he understood that she needed time. And for the first time in a while, Emma felt like she wasn't alone in her struggles. They spent the rest of the evening talking about everything and nothing at all. The more time Emma spent with Liam, the more she realized that maybe, just maybe, this was something worth exploring. She wasn't sure where it would go, or how it would turn out, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. As they said their goodbyes that night, Liam walked Emma to the door of the restaurant, his hand brushing against hers as they stepped outside. He paused before speaking again. "I'm really glad we met, Emma. I think we could be good for each other." Emma smiled, her heart warming at his words. "I'm glad we met, too." With that, they parted ways, and as Emma walked back to her apartment, she couldn't help but think that maybe this wasn't such a bad place to start after all. As the days passed, Emma couldn't help but find herself thinking about Liam more and more. Their second meeting had left her feeling a sense of calm that she hadn't realized she'd been missing. There was something about him, something in the way he listened, the way he spoke, that made her feel heard in a way she hadn't experienced in a long time. He didn't push her, didn't rush her, but he was persistent in a gentle, reassuring way. And as she went about her daily routine, from long shifts at the restaurant to quiet nights alone in her small apartment, Emma found herself hoping for their next conversation, their next meeting. But despite the warmth that Liam had brought into her life, Emma still couldn't shake the doubts that lingered. Her life was a constant struggle, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to let someone else into that world. She had always kept her personal life close to her chest, partly out of pride, and partly because she feared being judged for the mess she often felt like she was living in. Still, Liam's words echoed in her mind, and she couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, this could work. It was on a quiet Sunday afternoon when she got the text from Liam. It was simple, just a few words. "I was thinking about you. Want to grab dinner tonight?" Emma stared at her phone for a moment, unsure. The invitation felt different this time. It wasn't just a casual offer to meet up. It felt more like a step forward. She wasn't sure if she was ready for that step, but as she looked around her small apartment, with its chipped walls and half-empty shelves, she realized. She wanted something more. She wanted to feel like there was more to her life than just survival. With a deep breath, she typed back, "Sure, I'd like that. Dinner sounds nice." They agreed to meet at a small bistro near the edge of town. Emma arrived a little early, as usual, her nerves buzzing with anticipation. She'd worn a simple dress, nothing too fancy, but enough to make her feel confident. The moment she stepped inside, the warmth of the place embraced her, and she felt a sense of calm wash over her. Liam was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking just as calm and collected as always. "Hey, Emma," he greeted her with a smile that made her heart flutter. "You look great." "Thanks," she said, settling into the seat across from him. "You don't look so bad yourself." They both laughed, and for a moment, the world outside seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, sitting at a small table, enjoying each other's company. As they ordered their food and began to talk, Emma felt the walls she had carefully built around herself slowly start to come down. She told Liam about her struggles at the restaurant, her dream of one day opening an art studio, and how she had never really felt like she belonged in the world she lived in. She spoke with a raw honesty that surprised her, but somehow, it felt right. Liam listened intently, his eyes focused on her, and when she finished speaking, he smiled softly. "You know, Emma, you're more than just what you do or what you've been through. You're a lot stronger than you give yourself credit for." Emma looked down at her hands, a little taken aback by his words. She had always seen herself as someone who was just getting by, someone who had to fight for every inch of success. Hearing Liam say that she was strong, that she mattered beyond the circumstances of her life, was a revelation. "I'm not sure about that," she said quietly, almost to herself. "I feel like I'm barely keeping it together most of the time." Liam reached across the table, placing his hand gently over hers. "I get that," he said, "but sometimes you don't realize how much you're actually holding together until someone points it out. You're doing more than just surviving. Emma, you're living, and that's something to be proud of." For a moment, Emma sat there in silence, the weight of his words settling deep in her chest. She had never heard anyone speak to her like this before, and it made her heart swell with something she couldn't quite name. It was hope, maybe, or the beginnings of trust. She wasn't sure, but she knew that it felt different from anything she had ever experienced. The rest of dinner passed in a blur, their conversation flowing easily from one topic to the next. Emma felt like she was talking to someone who genuinely understood her, who wasn't judging her for her mistakes or shortcomings. She found herself laughing more than she had in a long time, and by the time dessert arrived, she felt a warmth inside that had nothing to do with the candlelight on the table. As they finished their meal, Liam looked at her with that same, soft smile. "I really enjoy spending time with you, Emma, and I think we're just getting started." Emma smiled back, her heart beating a little faster. "Yeah, me too," she said. "I'm glad we met." As they stood up to leave, Liam walked her to the door of the bistro. He paused for a moment, looking at her with that quiet intensity that always made her feel like he could see right through her. "I know things aren't easy for you, Emma," Liam said softly, "but I want you to know that you don't have to face everything alone. I'm here, and I want to help. Not just as a friend, but maybe something more." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected him to say that, but deep down, she knew it was what she wanted to hear. She had been too afraid to let someone in, but maybe, just maybe, it was time to take that chance. She looked up at him, her heart racing. "I think I'd like that," she whispered. With a smile, Liam leaned in slightly, his hand brushing against hers once more. "Then let's see where this goes," he said softly, before turning and walking away, leaving Emma standing in the doorway, her heart full of possibilities she hadn't dared to dream of before. The next few weeks passed in a blur, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like her life was slowly shifting in a way she hadn't expected. Every time she saw Liam, whether it was for a quick coffee or an evening out, she felt lighter, more alive. Their connection was undeniable, and yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing, something important that she wasn't seeing. Liam, for all his kindness and sincerity, still held a part of himself back, and Emma wasn't sure if it was just her or if he was keeping a secret. She had started to wonder if their blossoming relationship was built on truth, or if there was still something hidden beneath the surface. One rainy afternoon, as Emma finished her shift at the diner, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw a message from Liam. "I have something I want to show you. Meet me at the gallery tonight at 7 p.m. It's important." She stared at the message for a moment. It was rare for Liam to be so direct, and something about the tone of his words made her pause. What did he want to show her? Was this a big step, or was something about to change between them? She felt a flutter of anxiety in her chest, but pushed it aside. Whatever it was, she knew she wanted to see him. Later that evening, Emma arrived at the gallery. The large glass windows were lit up warmly, the rain tapping gently on the panes. She took a deep breath before entering, her heart beating faster with each step. When she walked inside, she saw Liam waiting near a row of paintings, his hands in his pockets as he watched her approach. He gave her a small smile, but his eyes seemed distant, as if he was deep in thought. "Hey," Emma said, walking up to him. "What's going on? You seemed serious in the message." Liam's smile faded slightly, and he motioned for her to follow him. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, leading her deeper into the gallery, away from the crowd of people milling about. They stopped in front of a large painting of a sunset over a city skyline, the warm colors of the sky contrasting with the dark buildings below. He turned to face her, his expression serious. "Emma, I haven't been completely honest with you. There's something I need to explain about myself." Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. She looked at Liam, unsure of what he was going to say. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice small. Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I haven't been entirely open with you about my life. About who I really am. I'm not just someone who works in tech." He paused, looking at her for a moment before continuing. "I'm Liam Parker. I'm the CEO of Parker Industries, one of the largest tech companies in the country. My life? It's not simple, and I've kept it hidden for a reason." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected this. She had always known Liam was successful, but this was something else entirely. She stared at him, trying to process his words, but everything felt like it was spinning. You're a CEO?" she asked, her voice shaky. Liam nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "I didn't want you to find out this way, but I've been keeping my distance because I didn't want to overwhelm you. I didn't want you to think I was just another businessman looking for a pretty face. But I realized that's not fair to you. You deserve the truth." Emma stood there in silence, trying to understand what Liam was saying. It was hard to wrap her mind around the idea that the man she had been seeing, the man who had made her feel so comfortable and at ease, was one of the wealthiest men in the country. The contrast was overwhelming. She felt small and insignificant standing next to him, as if her life didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I don't know what to say. She finally managed to get out. I didn't expect this. I thought. She trailed off, unsure of how to finish her sentence. She had thought they were just two people, two equals, coming together because they liked each other. But now, everything felt different. It felt like the walls were closing in. Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. Emma, nothing has changed. I'm still the same person I was when we met. I didn't want to hide this from you, but I didn't know how to tell you. I don't want you to feel like you're just someone in my world. I want us to be real. Emma looked down at their intertwined hands, her mind still reeling. She wanted to believe him, but the truth was, this felt like a lot to process. She had spent her whole life trying to keep her head above water, struggling just to get by, and now she was standing in front of a billionaire, someone with a life she couldn't even begin to imagine. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this, for him, or if she could handle the pressure of this new reality. I don't know if I can be a part of your world, she said quietly, looking up at him. I've never lived that life. I don't know if I can fit in. Liam's expression softened, and he gently cupped her face in his hands. You don't have to fit into my world, Emma. You just have to be yourself. And I want to give you the time to figure this out. I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking you to give me a chance. For the first time that evening, Emma felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could make this work. Maybe the truth wasn't as scary as it seemed. She took a deep breath and nodded slowly. Okay, she whispered. I'll give you a chance. And as she looked into Liam's eyes, she realized that, for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what might come next. The days that followed were a blur of emotions for Emma. She had agreed to give Liam a chance, but the weight of his revelations still hung in the air. She had always kept her life simple, kept her feelings guarded. But now, everything was different. The man she was falling for wasn't just some guy she met at a cafe or an office worker she had a casual connection with. He was Liam Parker, the CEO of a billion-dollar company. It was hard for her not to feel like she was living in a world that wasn't hers, like a small fish in a big, unfamiliar ocean. She had always prided herself on being independent, on making it through tough times on her own. The idea of relying on someone, especially someone as wealthy and powerful as Liam, was a concept she had trouble grasping. She found herself questioning everything. Was she enough for him? Did she belong in his world? Would their relationship survive this difference in their lives? One evening, after a particularly challenging shift at the diner, Emma found herself sitting in her apartment, alone with her thoughts. The rain pattered softly against the window, a constant hum in the background, as she stared out into the dark night. She hadn't heard from Liam all day. She knew he was busy, and she didn't want to seem clingy, but the silence between them felt heavy. It was only a few weeks ago that everything seemed so easy. Now, it felt like she was walking on eggshells. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. She picked it up, and a smile spread across her face when she saw Liam's name. Hey, Emma, his message read. I've been thinking about you. How about we go to dinner tonight? Just the two of us, no distractions. Her heart skipped a beat. It was exactly what she needed. A moment to just be with Liam, away from everything else. She quickly typed back, I'd love that. Where should we meet? I'll pick you up at 7, he replied, and that was that. As the evening approached, Emma felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She still didn't know what to expect, but she trusted Liam. She put on a simple dress, something she knew made her feel confident, but not overdone. She wanted to be herself, not someone else's idea of who she should be. When Liam arrived at her apartment, he looked just as he always did, effortlessly handsome, his smile warm as ever. He was dressed casually, but there was an air of confidence about him that made Emma feel both at ease and out of place at the same time. You look amazing, Liam said as he opened the car door for her, his eyes lingering on her for a moment longer than necessary. Thanks, Emma replied, feeling her cheeks heat up slightly. She climbed into the car, and Liam started the engine, pulling out onto the street. The silence between them was comfortable, but Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was something they still needed to talk about. She didn't want to rush into anything, but she couldn't ignore the weight of the unspoken words between them. As they drove, the city lights flickered by, casting soft shadows in the car. Emma glanced at Liam, who seemed lost in thought. She opened her mouth to say something, but hesitated. What was she supposed to say? Liam broke the silence first, his voice calm and steady. Emma, I know things have been a bit complicated. I don't want you to feel like you're walking into my world without knowing what you're getting into. I want to be clear with you. I care about you. But I understand if you're scared of all of this. I don't want to pressure you into something you're not ready for. His words hit her harder than she expected. It was as if he could read her mind. She had been worried about that very thing. The fear of being overwhelmed, of not measuring up. But hearing him say it so openly, acknowledging the gap between their worlds, made her feel seen. I'm scared, Liam, Emma admitted, her voice quieter than she intended. I've never been in a situation like this before. I've always done things on my own, you know? I don't know how to fit into a world like yours. Liam reached over, gently placing his hand on hers. His touch was warm, reassuring. You don't have to fit in, Emma. You just have to be yourself. That's all I want. The sincerity in his voice made her heart ache. She had never had someone be so open, so understanding. And despite all the fear, all the uncertainty swirling inside her, she found herself believing him. They arrived at the restaurant, a cozy, quiet place on the edge of the city. It was the kind of spot that felt intimate, where you could have a conversation without the noise of the world around you. As they sat down at their table, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. The worry she had carried with her seemed to fade away, at least for the moment. So, what have you been up to? Liam asked, his eyes sparkling with genuine interest. Emma smiled, leaning back in her chair. Not much, just the usual. Work, trying to figure out what comes next. But you know, it's funny, being around you makes me feel like I can actually imagine something more. Something bigger than just getting by. Liam smiled softly, reaching across the table to take her hand once more. That's all I want, Emma. For you to see that there's more to life than just surviving. I want to build something real with you, if you'll let me. As Emma looked into his eyes, she knew, deep down, that this was the beginning of something more. Something she had never dared to believe in before. She wasn't sure where it would go, or how it would all turn out, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was ready to take the leap. I think I'm ready, Emma said softly, her voice steady. Let's see where this takes us. And in that moment, she knew that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind. Emma and Liam spent more time together, their connection deepening with every moment. They shared late-night conversations, spontaneous outings, and quiet afternoons that felt more intimate than anything Emma had ever experienced. But despite the growing bond, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. The doubt that had lingered since Liam had revealed his true identity continued to hover in the back of her mind. She wanted to trust him completely, to let go of her fears and insecurities, but every time she felt close to fully surrendering, she held back. It wasn't just the wealth gap that made her hesitate. It was the fact that Liam's world was so different from hers. She had spent years fighting for everything she had, scraping by, while he had everything handed to him on a silver platter. She wasn't sure how to navigate that difference, how to find a place for herself in his life without feeling like she was just a passenger in his world. One evening, as they sat in Liam's penthouse, Emma couldn't help but feel like an outsider. The vast, modern space was filled with art, expensive furniture, and windows that offered a stunning view of the city skyline. It was beautiful, but it didn't feel like home. Liam, on the other hand, seemed perfectly at ease in the space, as if it was where he belonged. You seem quiet tonight, Liam remarked, noticing the way Emma had been staring out the window for the past few minutes. What's on your mind? Emma turned to face him, her heart heavy. She had been wanting to talk about it, but she wasn't sure how to express what she was feeling. I don't know, Liam, she began slowly. I just feel out of place. I've never been in a world like this before. Your life? It's so different from mine. Liam's expression softened, and he stood up from the couch to join her by the window. I get that, he said, his voice gentle. I never wanted you to feel like you didn't belong. I should have been more open with you about this from the start. But you are a part of my world, Emma. I want you to be. She shook her head, trying to keep her emotions in check. I know you want that, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can fit into a life like this, where everything is so different. I'm not used to luxury or power, and it feels like I'm drowning in it sometimes. Liam reached out, placing his hand on hers, his touch warm and reassuring. You don't have to fit in, Emma. You don't have to be someone you're not. All I want is for you to be yourself. I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm just asking you to give us a chance. Emma looked down at their hands, her mind racing. She knew that Liam was offering her something real, something she had never expected. But the fear of not being good enough, of not belonging in his world, still haunted her. I don't know if I can be the person you want me to be, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know if I can fit into your world the way you want me to. Liam's eyes softened, and he gently lifted her chin so that she was looking at him. You don't have to fit my world, Emma, he said softly. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. That's all I want. You're enough. Emma felt a lump form in her throat, the weight of his words pressing down on her chest. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him with everything she had. But there was still a part of her that felt like she wasn't worthy of this kind of love, that she wasn't enough for someone like him. I'm scared, Liam, she admitted, her voice breaking. I'm scared that I'm going to mess everything up. I've never had anyone care about me the way you do, and I don't know how to handle it. Liam stepped closer, pulling her into a warm embrace. You don't have to be perfect, Emma, he whispered, his voice steady and comforting. You just have to be real. I'm not asking for anything more than that. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Emma realized that maybe, just maybe, she had been pushing him away because she was afraid to let herself be loved. She had spent so long building walls around her heart that she didn't know how to tear them down. But here, in this moment, with Liam holding her, she felt the first crack in those walls. I want to try, Liam, Emma said quietly, her voice filled with resolve. I'm scared, but I want to try. For us. Liam smiled, his eyes lighting up with relief. That's all I need, Emma. Just a chance. We'll take this one step at a time, together. And for the first time in a long time, Emma felt a glimmer of hope. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that with Liam by her side, she was willing to face it head-on. The following weeks were filled with quiet moments and growing closeness between Emma and Liam. Despite the unease she had once felt, Emma was starting to realize that she could trust him. Slowly, she began to let go of the walls she had built around her heart. Liam, for his part, never pressured her. He just offered his support, a steady presence in her life, showing her time and time again that he cared for her. Their bond was deepening, and Emma found herself enjoying the little moments they shared, the soft conversations late at night, the laughter over shared meals, and even the moments of silence that felt comforting rather than awkward. But despite how far they had come, Emma still struggled with the doubt that had settled in her heart. She had come to terms with the idea of being with Liam, but there was always that nagging feeling in the back of her mind, that fear of not being enough. She wasn't sure if it was because of her own insecurities or the life Liam led, so far removed from her own. But the truth was, she was still terrified of losing herself in his world, of becoming someone she wasn't just to make things work. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of Liam's apartment, watching the sun dip below the horizon, the weight of everything finally felt like too much for Emma to keep inside. The city lights flickered below, and the warm breeze ruffled her hair, but her thoughts were heavy. She turned to Liam, who was gazing out at the skyline, his face soft in the evening light. Liam, she started, her voice quieter than usual. There's something I need to say. He turned to look at her, concern flickering in his eyes. What is it, Emma? She hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts before speaking again. I know we've been getting closer, and I've been trying to open up, but I'm scared. I'm scared that I'll lose myself in this. In us. I've always been independent, and now I'm not sure where I fit in your world. Liam reached out, gently taking her hand in his. His touch was warm, reassuring. Emma, you're not losing yourself. I don't want you to change for me. I've always seen you as you are, the strong, amazing woman I've come to care about. I'm not asking you to fit into my world. I just want to be a part of yours. Emma's chest tightened, but she could feel the sincerity in his words. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that she didn't have to change, that she could still be herself. But the fear of losing her independence, of being swallowed by a life so different from her own, still lingered. I know you're not asking me to change, Liam, she said softly. But sometimes I feel like I'm just pretending to be part of your world. And I'm scared that if I keep going down this path, I'll wake up one day and realize I'm not me anymore. I'm someone I don't recognize. Liam's eyes softened with understanding, and he pulled her into a gentle embrace. You're not pretending, Emma. You're just figuring it out. And I'll be here every step of the way. If you ever feel like you're losing yourself, we'll figure it out together. You don't have to do this alone. For a moment, Emma let herself rest in his arms, the weight of her worries easing just a little. She knew that she wasn't alone in this anymore. Liam's words gave her a sense of relief, but she also knew that the journey wasn't over. There were still things to figure out, still moments where she would need to trust him and herself. As they pulled away, Liam smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. And neither are you. Emma smiled back, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. She wasn't sure what the future held, but in that moment, she felt like she could take on whatever came their way. Maybe it wouldn't be easy, and maybe there would be moments of doubt, but for the first time in a long time, Emma felt ready to move forward, to see where this relationship with Liam could go. I think I'm ready, Liam, she said, her voice steady. Ready to give this a real shot. Liam's smile widened, and he leaned in to kiss her gently. We'll take it one step at a time. And no matter what happens, we'll face it together. And as Emma kissed him back, she knew that whatever challenges they might face in the future, they would be stronger for it. She wasn't just taking a leap of faith in him. She was taking it in herself too. As time passed, Emma and Liam found themselves growing closer, more in tune with each other, and more confident in their relationship. They faced challenges, as any couple does, but there was always one constant. They chose to face those challenges together. Emma had started to understand that she didn't have to lose herself in Liam's world. She didn't need to fit perfectly into the life he had built. She just needed to be herself, and Liam would love her for who she was. In return, she learned to trust him more and more, opening her heart fully to the love they were building. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of Liam's penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below, Emma turned to him with a quiet smile. The weight she had once carried in her heart seemed to lift more each day. The uncertainty that had clouded her mind was slowly fading, replaced by a newfound sense of peace. She could feel herself growing, not just with Liam, but within herself. Liam looked at her, his eyes soft with affection. I know it hasn't always been easy, Emma, but I'm glad we've come this far. Emma smiled, taking his hand in hers. Me too, she said, her voice filled with gratitude. I never thought I could be this happy. I was so afraid of letting go, of opening myself up. But I've learned so much about love, about trust, about myself. Liam squeezed her hand gently, his expression tender. You've always been strong, Emma. I knew that from the moment we met. You just needed to believe in yourself the way I believe in you. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest as she looked into Liam's eyes. She had come a long way since their first meeting. The woman who had once felt unworthy of love, who had spent so much time hiding her true self, was now standing beside a man who made her feel seen, valued, and loved for exactly who she was. I'm not sure I ever really understood what love was until I met you, Emma said, her voice soft but filled with conviction. I thought it was just something people talked about, something that looked good on paper. But with you it feels real. It feels like it's something I can hold on to. Liam smiled, his heart swelling with emotion. I feel the same way, Emma. You make me want to be a better person, and I'm not just saying that. You've brought light into my life in ways I never expected. Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, but it wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of joy, of relief, of the overwhelming feeling of being loved in a way she had never allowed herself to experience before. She wiped it away quickly, but Liam gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing against her cheek. You don't have to hide anything from me, Liam said, his voice tender. I love you, Emma. All of you. Even the parts you're afraid to show. Her heart swelled at his words, and she felt a deep sense of connection between them. In that moment, she knew with absolute certainty that this was where she was meant to be. She didn't need to be anyone else but herself. And for the first time, she fully accepted that. Truth. I love you too, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I want to face it with you. Liam leaned in, kissing her gently on the lips, a promise of what was to come. They didn't have all the answers, and the future was still uncertain. But in that moment, they knew they had something special, something worth fighting for. As they pulled away from the kiss, Emma rested her head on Liam's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his embrace. They watched the stars together, side by side, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because love wasn't about perfection. It was about acceptance, understanding, and the willingness to stand by each other through it all. And as the night wrapped around them like a comforting blanket, Emma realized that the love they had built wasn't just a story, it was real. It was hers, and it was Liam's, and it was the beginning of a new chapter. One where she no longer needed to be afraid of love, but where she could simply embrace it, fully and completely.